Hello and welcome to English in Advance. I'm Jessica, and I am so happy you've decided to join me today. I'm truly excited to have you here with me as we talk about a topic that so many English learners just like you think about and wonder about: how to learn English effortlessly. It's a beautiful idea, isn't it? The thought of learning a new language without the struggle, without the stress. If you've ever felt that learning English is just too difficult, that it's a huge mountain you have to climb every single day, or that it simply takes up too much of your precious time, then I want you to know that this podcast is made especially for you. I've designed this time together to feel like a warm, encouraging conversation, a guide to help you find a new, more joyful path on your English journey. First, allow me to properly introduce myself. My name is Jessica, and for many years, I've had the wonderful privilege of helping people from all over the world learn English in a way that feels easy, natural, and genuinely enjoyable. I've seen it all. The students who spend hours and hours with their noses buried in thick grammar books, the learners who create endless flashcards of vocabulary words only to forget them a week later. Over the years, I've watched so many dedicated students become deeply frustrated with these traditional methods. They put in so much effort, so much work, but they often feel like they're stuck, like they're running in place and not improving as quickly as they'd like to. It's a heartbreaking feeling, and it's one I want to help you overcome. But here is the truth, a simple, powerful truth that I want you to hold on to. Learning English does not have to be a constant struggle. It doesn't have to feel like a massive, overwhelming challenge that you face every single day. In fact, learning English can be simple, it can be fun, and yes, it can truly be effortless. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Effortless? How can learning something as complex and vast as the English language possibly be effortless? That's a fair question, and I promise you by the end of our time together today, you will have the answer. Let me tell you that the secret, the magic key, is all about changing the way you approach learning. It's about shifting your perspective. You don't need to lock yourself away and study for hours every single day. You don't need to memorize long, intimidating lists of vocabulary words that have no connection to your life. Instead, you can begin making small, simple changes to how you practice English. Tiny adjustments to your daily routine that will help you improve naturally, day by day, without ever feeling stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed. In this podcast, I'm going to share with you some simple and incredibly practical tips that you can start using right away. Today, in fact, it doesn't matter where you are on your journey, whether you're just taking your very first steps in learning English, or you've been practicing for a while and feel like you've hit a wall, these tips will help you. They will guide you to practice speaking and listening in a way that fits seamlessly into your everyday life. You'll discover how to immerse yourself in English, creating your own little English-speaking world no matter where you live. You'll learn how to make listening and speaking a daily habit, as natural as brushing your teeth or making your morning coffee. And most importantly, you'll find out how to keep your learning experience fun, engaging, and motivating. Before we go any further, I want you to remember one very important thing. You are already completely capable of learning English. The ability is already inside you. You learned your first language after all, and you can learn this one too. And you absolutely don't have to do it the hard way. The real key, the secret to unlocking your potential, is to approach it with patience, with consistency, and with a positive mindset. In today's episode, we will explore together how to make English learning a part of your life in a way that feels easy, comfortable, and truly enjoyable. So please sit back, relax, maybe grab a cup of tea, and let's dive into the wonderful world of effortless English learning together. Before we dive deep into the specific methods and techniques that can make learning English feel so much easier, let's first take a moment to talk about what we really mean by the phrase effortless learning. You might be sitting there thinking, is it truly possible to learn something as rich and complex as English without feeling like it's hard, grinding work? The answer, I am happy to tell you, is a resounding yes, and I'm going to explain exactly why. When we think of the word learning, our minds often conjure up a very specific image. We might imagine ourselves sitting at a desk, surrounded by stacks of textbooks, diligently memorizing long lists of vocabulary, and trying to untangle endless, complicated grammar rules. We may picture ourselves studying for hours on end, feeling stressed, tired, and constantly worrying if we're making any real progress. This traditional way of learning, the one many of us experienced in school, isn't always the most effective or enjoyable way to learn, especially when it comes to a living, breathing language like English. Instead of thinking of learning as something that requires intense, sometimes painful effort and constant frustration, I invite you to think of it as something that can be natural, organic, and genuinely fun. This is the very heart of what we mean by effortless learning. Effortless learning is all about removing the pressure, the anxiety, and the stress that so often come with trying to master a new language. It's about using methods and approaches that feel easy, engaging, and even relaxing. Imagine for a moment, instead of forcing yourself to study for hours, feeling your shoulders tense up with anxiety about making mistakes, you are learning English simply by living your life, by doing the things you already love to do. This might sound a little too good to be true, but I assure you it is not. In fact, it's a strategy that many of the most successful language learners in the world use, sometimes without even realizing it. Here's how you can begin to shift your own thinking and start to see learning English as something that feels truly effortless. The very first and most crucial step to effortless learning is changing the way you think about the process of learning itself. This is about your mindset. Many learners hold a deep-seated belief that they need to work extremely hard, that they have to suffer and struggle, or that they have to memorize every single word and rule to be successful. But learning a language doesn't have to be a struggle. It can be a joyful exploration. If you approach English with a positive and patient mindset, focusing on your daily progress rather than chasing an impossible standard of perfection, you'll start to genuinely enjoy the process. The less pressure you put on yourself, the more your mind will relax and open up, and the more natural your learning will feel. Think of it like a journey. You're not trying to teleport to the destination. You're enjoying the scenery along the way. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when learning English is focusing too much, almost exclusively, on memorizing words and grammar rules. Now, of course, vocabulary and grammar are important components of the language, but they shouldn't be your only focus. Instead, try learning English through real, meaningful experiences. This means listening to engaging podcasts that make you think or laugh, watching TV shows that you can't wait to see the next episode of, reading books that transport you to another world, and having real conversations, however simple, in English. When you're exposed to English in real situations, in a context that matters to you, you start to understand it intuitively and naturally, without having to consciously memorize every little thing. For example, think about how you learned your first language when you were a small child. You didn't sit down at a tiny desk and study grammar rules or memorize vocabulary lists from a book. You learned by being completely immersed in the language. You learned by listening to your family talk around the dinner table, by watching cartoons on TV, by playing games with your friends. The more you were exposed to the sounds, the rhythms, and the patterns of the language, the better you became at speaking and understanding it. This is the exact same principle we can apply to learning English as an adult. The more you surround yourself with English in a way that is meaningful to you, the easier it will be to pick it up, often without even feeling like you're studying at all. Effortless learning truly begins to happen when you make English a seamless part of your everyday routine. Instead of setting aside big, intimidating blocks of time for study time, you can weave English into the activities you already do every day. This could mean listening to an English podcast while you're commuting to work or walking the dog. It could mean watching your favorite movies on Netflix, but this time with English subtitles. It could even be as simple as changing the language settings on your phone or your social media accounts to English. These may seem like very small changes, but they add up significantly over time. They help you get more comfortable and familiar with the language in a low-pressure way. A common challenge and a source of great anxiety for many learners is speaking English fluently. We often feel so nervous about making mistakes or not finding the right words that we avoid speaking altogether. However, one of the easiest and most powerful ways to learn English effortlessly is by focusing on listening and speaking. Why these two skills? Because these are the most natural ways we learn any language in the first place. When you listen to English regularly, your brain starts to subconsciously pick up on new words, common phrases, and natural sentence structures. Similarly, when you practice speaking, even if it's just talking to yourself, you start to actively use the words and phrases you've heard in real communicative situations. Don't worry about being perfect. That is not the goal. The goal is to get comfortable with the sound and feel of the language. As you listen more and speak more, you will notice that it starts to feel easier and much more natural. Learning English effortlessly is not about achieving perfection overnight. It's about making small, steady, consistent progress over time. It's so important to celebrate every little victory along the way. Did you understand a new word in a song today? That's a win. Did you have a simple 2-minute conversation with a language partner? That's a huge win. Did you watch a 5-minute YouTube video without needing subtitles? Celebrate that. When you consciously focus on these small wins, you'll stay motivated, you'll build confidence, and you'll continue to improve without feeling overwhelmed by the size of the overall goal. One of the most important keys to effortless learning is consistency, not intensity. Many learners fall into the trap of believing they need to study for many hours at a time to make real progress. But in reality, it's much more effective and sustainable to practice for shorter periods every single day. Even if you only have 15 or 20 minutes a day to dedicate to English, you will improve dramatically over time if you stay consistent. It's the regular small deposits of practice that accumulate and lead to big results. Think of it like exercising. It's better to go for a 20-minute walk every day than to run a marathon once a month. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, effortless learning is all about having fun. If you genuinely enjoy the process, you will naturally want to keep learning. You won't have to force yourself. Find ways to make English interesting for you personally. Is it through music? Great. Make a playlist of your favorite English songs and learn the lyrics. Do you love movies? Have a weekly English movie night. Are you into video games? Play them in English. Do you love connecting with people? Find friends online to talk to. The more you enjoy your learning activities, the less it will feel like work and the faster you'll improve. In conclusion, effortless learning is about weaving English into the fabric of your everyday life in a natural and enjoyable way. It's about shifting your mindset away from perfectionism, focusing on real experiences, listening and speaking regularly, and not stressing about mistakes. By following these guiding principles, you'll be able to learn English with a sense of ease and joy, without the pressure or frustration that so often comes with more traditional methods. One of the most powerful, effective, and truly transformative ways to learn English effortlessly is by immersing yourself in the language. But what does the word immersion really mean? And how can you do it effectively, especially if you don't live in an English-speaking country? Let's dive deep into this incredible concept and explore why it's such a crucial and game-changing part of your English learning journey. So what exactly is immersion? At its core, immersion is the process of surrounding yourself with a language as much as you possibly can. When you immerse yourself in English, you are constantly exposing yourself to it, whether it's through listening, reading, watching, or speaking, until it becomes a natural and normal part of your daily life. It's very much like when you were a child learning your very first language. You didn't just spend 1 hour a day in a classroom learning the rules. The language was everywhere. You were swimming in it. You learned by being completely surrounded by people who spoke that language all around you, all day long. In the context of language learning as an adult, immersion works in exactly the same way. The more you are exposed to English in all sorts of everyday situations, the more easily and naturally you'll start to understand it, speak it, and even think in it. But the real key here is consistency. Creating an immersive environment isn't something you do once. It's a lifestyle you create. The more often you practice and the more you expose yourself to English, the easier and more automatic it will all become. So how can you start to immerse yourself in English right now from wherever you are? Let's start with one of the easiest and most effective methods: listening to English content regularly. Listening is one of the very best ways to immerse yourself in English because you can do it almost anywhere, anytime. The more you listen to the language, the more your brain will begin to recognize common words, understand natural sentence structures, and develop an intuitive feel for how the language flows and sounds. You can listen to English content while you're doing other activities like driving, cleaning the house, exercising, or cooking dinner, which makes it incredibly easy to incorporate into your already busy daily life. Some truly great options for listening include podcasts. There is a podcast for every interest and every level imaginable. Choose podcasts that match your current level and, most importantly, your personal interests. There are podcasts created specifically for beginners, intermediate learners, and advanced learners. You can listen to fascinating stories, interesting interviews, and deep discussions about every topic under the sun, from science and history to comedy and cooking. Of course, I hope you'll continue listening to podcasts like this one, English in Advance, to practice your speaking and listening skills in a supportive environment. Another wonderful tool for immersion is music. Listening to English music is such a fun and relaxing way to practice. Don't just have it on in the background. Pay active attention to the lyrics. Try to understand the meaning of the words and the story the song is telling. You can easily find the lyrics online and read along as you listen. You can even try singing along to improve your pronunciation, your rhythm, and your fluency. It might feel silly at first, but it's an incredibly effective technique. If you enjoy reading, audiobooks are a fantastic way to combine the skills of listening and reading. Find books that you're genuinely interested in and listen to the audiobook while following along with the physical text or ebook. This powerful combination helps you learn new vocabulary in a rich context, and it dramatically improves your reading comprehension and speed. Plus, hearing a professional narrator bring a story to life is a wonderful experience. And of course, there are movies and TV shows. Watching movies or TV shows in English is another excellent and highly enjoyable way to immerse yourself. You can start with subtitles in your own language if you need to. Then, as you begin to feel more comfortable, you can switch to English subtitles. Eventually, you can try watching without any subtitles at all. This method is brilliant because it helps you learn everyday vocabulary, common slang, and informal expressions that native speakers use all the time, the kind of language you don't often find in textbooks. To fully immerse yourself, you should also try to make changes in your physical and digital environment so that English is literally everywhere you look. Here are some simple but powerful ways to surround yourself with English. A great place to start is to change your phone settings to English. Think about how many times a day you look at your phone. By changing the language, you're giving yourself dozens of tiny English lessons every single day. Do the same for your social media apps and your computer. The more often you see and interact with English, the better. Another fantastic and creative way to learn new vocabulary is by labeling objects all around your home. Get some sticky notes or small labels and write the English names of items on them. Stick a label that says refrigerator on your refrigerator, mirror on your mirror, desk on your desk. Every time you use or see these items, you'll be reminded of the English word for them. It's a simple trick, but it really works to build your everyday vocabulary. In today's world, social media is a huge part of our lives, so why not use it for learning? Start following accounts, pages, or groups that post content in English. Whether it's an Instagram page about travel, a YouTube channel about your favorite hobby, or a Twitter account of an English-speaking celebrity or news organization, consuming content in English is a great way to stay connected to the language in a fun and casual way. Of course, one of the best and most important ways to immerse yourself in English is by actually speaking with others who speak it fluently. Engaging in real conversations helps you practice your skills in real-life situations and is one of the fastest ways to build your confidence. Please do not be afraid of making mistakes. Speaking is one of the quickest and most effective ways to learn. Here are some ways you can start practicing speaking. You could find a language exchange partner. Look for someone who is a native English speaker and is trying to learn your native language. You can then arrange to talk, maybe online through a video call. You could spend half the time speaking in English and the other half in your native language. It's a win-win situation. There are many wonderful apps and websites where you can find language partners, such as Tandem, HelloTalk, or Speaky. If you have friends who are already fluent in English, ask them if they would be willing to speak with you in English sometimes. Try to use English during your conversations, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. Every little bit of practice is incredibly valuable. You could also look into online English classes or speaking clubs. Many online platforms offer affordable one-on-one lessons with native speakers, like Italki or Cambly. You can also join online speaking clubs where you can talk with other learners and native speakers in a friendly, low-pressure group setting. Reading in English every day is another excellent way to immerse yourself. Reading helps you improve your vocabulary, learn how sentences are correctly constructed, and exposes you to many different writing styles. Here are some easy ways to start reading more in English. Pick books that match your current level. Start with simple books designed for beginners and slowly work your way up to more challenging texts. If you're not sure where to start, try reading children's books or young adult novels, as they often use simpler vocabulary and more straightforward sentence structures. If you're interested in a specific topic, like technology, fashion, or history, search for blogs, articles, or websites in English that cover that topic. This will help you learn a lot of new vocabulary that is directly related to your interests, which makes it much more memorable. Reading the news in English can also help you learn how to discuss current events and improve your more formal vocabulary. There are wonderful websites like BBC Learning English or News in Levels that offer news stories written in simple English, which can be especially helpful for learners. Even though writing isn't always thought of as part of the immersion process, it's a fantastic way to practice your English. Writing regularly helps you to solidify new vocabulary, improve your understanding of grammar, and get more comfortable with building correct sentence structures. You can start by keeping a simple journal in English. Write about your day, your thoughts, your dreams, or what you've learned. This private practice will help you become much more confident in using English to express yourself. You can also engage in online communities, join forums, comment sections of blogs, or social media groups where people discuss topics you're interested in, all in English. The more you write in English, the better your skills will become. The true power of all these methods is consistency. The more time you spend with English, the more naturally you will learn it. Just like learning your first language, you probably won't notice the big changes from one day to the next. But over time, with consistent immersion, you will see incredible improvement in your ability to understand, speak, and think in English. When it comes to learning English in a way that feels natural and effortless, focusing your energy on listening and speaking is one of the most effective strategies you can adopt. These two skills are the true foundation of language learning. They are how we first learn to communicate, and yet they are often the hardest skills to practice in a traditional classroom setting. However, when you make a conscious decision to prioritize listening and speaking in your daily life, you'll find that the entire process of learning English becomes much easier, more intuitive, and infinitely more enjoyable. Let's dive into why these two skills are so incredibly important and how you can work on improving them in a natural, stress-free way. Before we get into the specific methods of improving your listening and speaking skills, it's really important to understand why these two areas are so crucial in your language learning journey. Let's start with listening. Listening develops your deep understanding of English. It helps you develop a much better, more intuitive understanding of how English actually works in real-life situations. By listening to native speakers, you get to hear how words are really pronounced, how sentences flow together with a natural rhythm, and how language is used differently in different contexts. For example, the difference between a formal presentation and a casual chat between friends. This constant exposure helps you improve your vocabulary, your comprehension, and your pronunciation without you even realizing you're studying. Then there's speaking. Speaking builds your confidence. Speaking is absolutely essential because it allows you to practice using the English you've learned in an active, productive way. Many learners focus too much on passive skills like reading and writing, and they often forget about the importance of speaking. But the more you speak, the more confident you become. Speaking also helps to solidify your language skills because it forces your brain to recall vocabulary and grammar rules in real time, on the spot. It connects the knowledge in your head to the muscles in your mouth. The more you practice speaking, the more fluent and automatic you'll become. Most importantly, listening and speaking are deeply connected. They go hand in hand like a perfect dance. When you listen to English, you hear new words, new phrases, and new sentence structures. This is the input. Then you can use these new things when you speak. This is the output. By focusing on listening first, you are preparing your brain to understand and produce the language when it's your turn to speak. You are filling up your mental library with sounds, words, and patterns. So how can you improve your listening skills? Improving your listening doesn't mean you have to spend hours and hours in front of a textbook or memorizing the answers to difficult listening exercises. Instead, the focus should be on making listening a regular, normal, and enjoyable part of your daily routine. The absolute key to improving your listening skills is to listen to content that you genuinely enjoy. Choose podcasts, music, TV shows, movies, and audiobooks that actually interest you. Whether you enjoy true crime stories, sports analysis, news commentary, or romantic comedies, the more engaged you are with the content, the more you'll want to listen. For example, start with podcasts in English that match your interests. If you enjoy podcasts like this one, you'll not only get exposed to natural conversational language, but you'll also have fun while you're learning. Try listening to the episodes while you're doing everyday tasks like cooking dinner, cleaning the house, or commuting to work. A very useful tool is using subtitles or transcripts. If you're watching a movie or a TV show in English, it's perfectly okay to start with subtitles in your native language. Then, as you improve, you can switch to English subtitles. This is a powerful step because it helps you to better connect the spoken words you are hearing with their written form. In this way, you're actively improving both your listening and your reading skills at the same time. Similarly, many podcasts and audiobooks offer transcripts of their episodes. Listening while reading the transcript can help to reinforce the connection between what you hear and what you read, making it easier to absorb the language. It's also important to practice active listening. Active listening means that you are focusing fully on the content you're listening to. Try to avoid multitasking too much and give your full, undivided attention to the audio. As you listen, try to listen for specific details. Maybe it's new vocabulary words, interesting idioms, or new phrases. This focused practice helps to dramatically improve your listening comprehension and ensures you're truly understanding what you're hearing, not just letting the sound wash over you. When you're starting out, it can be very helpful to listen to slower and clearer speech. Many learners find it very difficult to follow native speakers because they often speak very quickly. To help with this, look for resources that are made specifically for English learners, such as special podcasts or YouTube videos designed for learners. These materials are usually spoken at a slower pace and are much easier to follow, giving you a better chance to absorb the language and build your confidence. Now that we understand the importance of listening, it's time to focus on speaking. Speaking is a skill that absolutely requires practice. But please don't worry. You don't need to wait until you feel perfect to start. In fact, you will never feel perfect if you wait. The more you practice speaking, the easier and more natural it will become. One of the best ways to improve your speaking skills is simply to speak as much as possible. It might feel scary or intimidating at first, but the more you do it, the more fluent and confident you will become. If you don't have anyone to speak with in person, you can use the many online platforms where you can practice with native speakers or other learners. You can also practice speaking completely alone. Try talking to yourself in English. Narrate your day. Talk about your plans, your thoughts, your feelings. This is a fantastic way to build confidence and fluency in a completely zero-pressure environment. You can also record yourself speaking and then listen back to it. This can help you identify areas where you can improve your pronunciation or grammar. Please do not fear mistakes. A lot of learners are absolutely terrified of making mistakes when they speak, but mistakes are a natural and necessary part of the learning process. The key is to keep going. When you make a mistake, don't stop and feel bad. Simply learn from it and move forward. Over time, you'll naturally make fewer and fewer mistakes as you become more comfortable with speaking. As we mentioned before, finding a language exchange partner is a wonderful way to practice speaking. If you're looking for a way to practice speaking with another person, consider finding someone who is learning your native language and wants to practice English with you. You can exchange languages, helping each other to improve. Apps like HelloTalk, Tandem, and Speaky are excellent tools for finding language exchange partners from all over the world. There are also many online communities where you can practice speaking English with other people. Look for virtual speaking clubs or online conversation classes. You can join group discussions, practice with professional teachers, or just speak casually with fellow learners who are on the exact same journey as you. Regular practice in a supportive and friendly environment will help you gain confidence and improve much faster. A great way to improve both your pronunciation and your fluency is by imitating native speakers. Listen very carefully to how they speak. Pay close attention to their tone of voice, their rhythm, their stress patterns, and their pronunciation. Then, try to imitate exactly what you hear. This technique is often called shadowing, and it is incredibly effective for improving your accent and your overall speaking flow. It's also helpful to set realistic speaking goals for yourself. Set small, achievable goals that you can work on every day. For example, your goal could be to have a 5-minute conversation in English each day, or to introduce yourself in English in front of a mirror. Setting these small, manageable goals keeps you motivated and helps you to gradually build your confidence over time. The true magic really happens when you combine listening and speaking. The more you listen, the more you will hear new words, new phrases, and new sentence structures that you can then use when you speak. And similarly, speaking regularly will reinforce the language patterns that you've learned through listening. The goal is to create a positive cycle, a feedback loop where listening and speaking feed into each other. As you listen more, you'll understand better. And as you speak more, you'll feel more confident in your ability to communicate. With consistent daily practice, these skills will begin to feel completely natural, making your English learning an effortless and enjoyable process. When it comes to learning English, one of the most effective and intelligent ways to expand your vocabulary is to learn words in context. Simply trying to memorize a long list of new words without understanding how they fit into real-life situations can make them much harder to remember and even harder to use correctly. Instead, learning vocabulary through context helps you to understand the true meaning, the proper usage, and the subtle nuances of words in a much more natural and memorable way. In this section, we're going to explore exactly why learning vocabulary in context is so important and how you can do it effectively in your daily practice. So why does learning vocabulary in context matter so much? Learning vocabulary in context is not just about remembering a word's dictionary definition. It's about deeply understanding how that word fits into sentences, into conversations, and into real-world situations. Here's why this approach is so powerful. First, it dramatically improves your retention. When you learn a new word through a meaningful context, like in a story or a conversation, you are much more likely to remember it. Understanding how a word is used in a sentence or a story gives you a strong mental image of that word in action. This rich connection helps you to recall the word much more easily when you need it in your own conversations or writing. It also helps you to understand nuances. Many English words have multiple meanings or can be used in different ways depending on the context. For example, think about the simple word run. You can run a race, but you can also run a company. Your nose can run, or colors can run in the laundry. If you only learn the word run in isolation from a list, you might not understand which meaning to use in a particular situation. Context helps you to grasp these important subtleties and use the word correctly. This approach also supports the natural use of vocabulary. Knowing a word's definition is only one part of the learning process. You also need to understand how it sounds, how it's pronounced, and how it fits grammatically into different sentences. Learning words in context helps you to use them correctly and naturally, so you sound more like a native speaker. And finally, it makes learning fun and engaging. Learning new vocabulary in context, for example, through interesting stories, exciting movies, or beautiful songs, keeps the entire process interesting and enjoyable. You're not just memorizing isolated words, you're discovering them as part of a real, engaging story or conversation. This makes the learning experience much more enjoyable and much less like a boring chore. Now that we understand the great importance of learning vocabulary in context, Let's look at some practical and effective ways you can start doing this. One of the very best ways to learn vocabulary in context is through reading. When you read books, stories, articles, or blog posts, you're constantly exposed to new words being used in real-life situations. For example, when you read a novel, you encounter words used in conversations between characters, in rich descriptions of people and places, and in explanations of actions and settings. As you read, try to guess the meaning of any unknown words based on the surrounding sentences and the overall situation. This practice will help you to better understand how those words are used. A great tip is to choose reading material that is genuinely interesting to you. If you enjoy the topic, you'll be much more likely to stay engaged, and you'll pick up new words without even realizing that you're studying. Watching movies and TV shows in English is another fantastic way to learn vocabulary in context. Hearing words used in natural, flowing conversations allows you to understand not only their meaning, but also how they are pronounced and used in real-world situations. You can also see the body language, the gestures, and the emotions of the speakers, which helps you to understand the meaning behind the words even more clearly. A good tip is to start with subtitles in your native language if you need to, and then gradually switch to English subtitles as your level improves. This helps to connect the spoken and written language, making it easier to absorb new vocabulary. Listening to podcasts or audiobooks is another great way to immerse yourself in English and learn new words. Similar to movies and TV shows, podcasts provide rich context through spoken words. You will hear words used in discussions about many different topics, and the context of the conversation will give you a much better understanding of their meanings. Audiobooks are especially useful if you want to see the written form of the words while you listen, which helps to reinforce what you are hearing. A helpful tip is that after listening to a podcast or a chapter of an audiobook, try to summarize the main points in your own words, using some of the new vocabulary you've learned. This active practice will help you to remember and use the words in your own speech. Engaging in conversations is a powerful way to learn vocabulary in context. Whether you're talking to a friend, a language partner, or a teacher, conversations allow you to use new words and also to see how other people use them. As you practice speaking, you'll learn how words fit naturally into sentences, which will help you to improve both your vocabulary and your fluency. A very important tip here is to not be afraid to make mistakes. The more you practice using new words, the more confident and fluent you will become. Rather than just memorizing vocabulary lists, try to always use new words in your own sentences. This helps you to remember them and to understand how they fit into your own communication. For example, when you learn a new word, make an effort to immediately write it down in a sentence that is meaningful to you. By doing this, you are connecting the word with its proper usage and a personal context. A good tip is to start with very simple sentences and then gradually increase the complexity as you become more comfortable. This practice will help to reinforce your understanding of how the word fits into different contexts. Grouping words by themes or categories, such as food, travel, emotions, or work, helps you to learn them in a more organized and connected way. For example, if you're learning words related to food, you might learn words like delicious, spicy, sour, and bitter all together. In this way, you learn the words in a related context, which makes it much easier to remember them and to use them correctly. You can use flashcards or apps like Anki or Quizlet to group related vocabulary together. You can create sets of words that go together and then test yourself regularly to keep them fresh in your mind. To really make new vocabulary stick in your memory, try to relate the words to your own personal experiences. For example, if you learn the word adventure, think about your own travels or some exciting experiences you have had. When you make these personal connections, the words become much more meaningful and therefore much easier to remember. A great way to do this is to keep a vocabulary journal where you write down new words and also include personal examples of how the words connect to your own life. This will help to reinforce your learning and create a strong personal connection with each new word. No matter how you choose to learn vocabulary in context, repetition is absolutely key. The more you encounter a new word in different contexts, the more deeply it will become embedded in your long-term memory. Repetition allows you to see how the word is used in various situations and reinforces your understanding of its true meaning. So it's important to review your new vocabulary regularly. Go back to the stories, podcasts, or conversations where you first learned the new words and try to use them again yourself. This will help you to internalize the words and make them a natural part of your active vocabulary. When it comes to learning a new language like English, one of the most important and transformative habits you can possibly develop is consistent practice. Many learners believe that long, intensive study sessions, where they try to cram as much information as possible into a short period of time, are the best way to improve. However, a vast amount of research and the experience of successful learners all show that consistent, regular, daily practice is far more effective for long-term success and mastery. In this section, we'll explore exactly why practicing consistently is so much more beneficial than practicing intensively, and how you can make this powerful approach work for you. So, why is consistency the magic key? Consistency is often the secret ingredient to mastering any new skill, and this is especially true for learning English. Here's why it matters so much. First, it greatly improves your retention over time. When you practice consistently, you allow your brain to absorb and process information gradually. Instead of overwhelming yourself with too much new information all at once, you're giving your mind the necessary time to process, categorize, and store what you've learned. This slow and steady approach leads to much better long-term retention of vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. It also helps you to avoid burnout. Intensive practice sessions might feel very productive in the short term, but they can very quickly lead to mental and emotional burnout. When you try to learn too much too quickly, you might get exhausted, overwhelmed, or frustrated, which can cause you to lose your motivation and even give up completely. By practicing in smaller, more manageable chunks every day, you avoid the risk of burnout, and you keep your learning experience enjoyable and sustainable for the long haul. Consistency also builds a powerful habit. When you practice English every day, even for a very short amount of time, you create a routine that becomes a natural and automatic part of your life. Over time, this routine will become so ingrained in your daily life that it will feel strange not to do your daily English practice. And as we all know, habits are much, much easier to maintain than occasional bursts of intensive, high-effort study. Finally, regular practice enhances your fluency. By exposing yourself to the English language consistently every single day, you start to think in English, which is a crucial step toward true fluency. When you practice a little bit every day, you improve incrementally, step by step, and eventually you'll be able to speak and understand English naturally and without hesitation. Now that we know why consistency is so important, let's explore some practical strategies for ensuring that you practice regularly without feeling overwhelmed. One of the best ways to ensure consistent practice is to create a realistic schedule that fits neatly into your daily routine. Rather than aiming for long, exhausting study sessions, set aside a few minutes each day specifically for English practice. For example, you could decide to practice for 15 to 20 minutes every morning with your coffee, or every evening before bed. Remember, consistency is much more important than the length of each session, so keep it manageable and realistic for your life. A very helpful tip is to remember that it's much better to practice a little bit every day than to study for hours only once a week. Short daily practice sessions help to keep the language fresh in your mind and prevent you from forgetting what you've learned. One of the easiest ways to practice consistently is to integrate English into your everyday activities. You don't always need to set aside separate, dedicated time to study. You can simply use English as a natural part of your daily routine. For example, you can listen to English podcasts or music while you're commuting to work. You can watch English TV shows during your free time. You can read articles and books in English instead of in your native language. The more you surround yourself with the language, the more naturally it will become a part of your life. A useful tip here is to look for small opportunities or micro moments to practice English throughout your day. These little moments can add up very quickly and help you to build your skills without feeling like you're constantly studying. Language learning apps like Duolingo, Babbel, or Anki can be excellent tools for practicing consistently. These apps offer bite-sized lessons that you can complete in just a few minutes each day. They are perfect for learners with busy schedules who might not have time for long study sessions. You can set reminders to practice every day, helping you to stay on track with your language goals. Try setting a small daily goal for your app practice, such as completing one lesson or learning 5 new words each day. These small daily achievements will keep you motivated and ensure that you're constantly learning. Speaking practice is absolutely essential for improving your fluency, and the best way to do this consistently is by finding a language partner. If you don't have someone nearby to practice with, there are many online platforms where you can find native English speakers or fellow learners to practice with. Schedule regular conversations with your partner, even if they're just for 10 or 15 minutes, to keep up your speaking practice. Remember, even if you don't feel ready to speak fluently, don't be afraid to practice. Making mistakes is a normal part of the learning process, and each conversation you have will help you to improve. Keeping track of your progress is a fantastic way to stay motivated and consistent. You can use a journal or an app to record the new vocabulary you've learned, the grammar points you've mastered, and any speaking achievements you've made. When you can look back and see how much you've accomplished, it will encourage you to keep going. A good habit is to review your progress every week or every month to see how far you've come. This reflection will help you to recognize your improvements and will motivate you to keep practicing. Setting small, realistic goals can keep you motivated and on track. Rather than aiming for the huge goal of perfection, focus on making steady, consistent progress. For example, you could set a goal to learn 10 new words each week, or to be able to hold a 5-minute conversation in English by the end of the month. These small wins will build your confidence and make the learning process feel much more rewarding. It's a great idea to break down your larger goals into smaller, more manageable steps. This approach makes your progress feel more attainable and prevents you from getting overwhelmed. One of the most important keys to consistency is making your learning practice fun. If you genuinely enjoy the process, you'll be much more likely to stick with it over the long term. Find activities that you truly like and incorporate them into your practice. For example, if you enjoy watching movies, try watching English films with subtitles. If you love music, listen to English songs and try to understand the lyrics. The more you enjoy the process, the more likely you are to practice regularly. Don't force yourself to practice things you don't enjoy. Find activities that keep you engaged and excited about learning. While it might be tempting to dedicate long hours to studying English all at once, especially when you feel motivated, please remember that it's not about how much time you spend on learning in one single sitting. Intensive study sessions can easily lead to frustration and burnout. Consistent daily practice is much more sustainable, and it allows for more gradual and solid progress over time. If you find yourself feeling burnout or frustrated, take a short break. Step away from it for a day or two and then return to your practice later. Regular practice over a long period of time will always yield better results than trying to do everything in one go. Learning English, just like learning any new and valuable skill, can come with its fair share of challenges. There will almost certainly be moments of frustration. There will be times when you have doubts about your own abilities. And there will be periods of slow progress where you feel like you're stuck. However, maintaining a positive mindset and staying motivated throughout this entire learning process is absolutely essential to your success. In this final section, we will explore why staying positive and motivated is so crucial for learning English effortlessly, and how you can keep your motivation high even when things get tough. So why does staying positive matter so much? Having a positive attitude plays a truly significant role in your language learning journey. Here are a few reasons why a positive mindset is so important. First, it helps you to overcome your doubts and fears. Learning a new language can be very intimidating, especially when you feel like you're not making fast enough progress. It's very easy to feel discouraged or to start thinking that you're just not good enough. However, staying positive allows you to push through those difficult moments of doubt and keeps you focused on your long-term goals. It helps you to realize that learning takes time and that it's perfectly okay to make mistakes along the way. A positive mindset also increases your motivation. It's a powerful motivator. When you truly believe in your own ability to improve, you're much more likely to stay committed to your learning journey. On the other hand, if you focus on negative thoughts, it can quickly lead to burnout and a complete loss of interest. Staying positive helps you to keep the excitement and curiosity alive, making the learning process enjoyable and rewarding. Positivity also promotes resilience. In any learning process, you will inevitably face obstacles. Whether it's struggling with a difficult grammar concept, a new vocabulary word, or having trouble speaking, a positive mindset helps you to view these challenges as opportunities for growth rather than as insurmountable roadblocks. When you maintain a positive attitude, you become more resilient and you are able to bounce back from setbacks much more easily. And interestingly, positive emotions have been shown by scientific research to improve memory and learning retention. When you are feeling excited, motivated, and happy, your brain is more receptive to new information. Conversely, feelings of stress and negativity can actually inhibit the learning process. By staying positive, you are creating an optimal mental environment in which your brain can absorb and retain information much more efficiently. So how can you stay motivated? Motivation is the key to ensuring you stay on track with your language learning goals. Here are some practical and effective ways to keep your motivation high. One of the most effective ways is by setting clear and achievable goals. Break down your larger language learning goals into smaller, more manageable steps. For example, instead of having the vague and intimidating goal of speaking English fluently, you might set a smaller goal to learn 5 new words every week or to hold a short 3-minute conversation in English by the end of the month. It's important to keep your goals realistic and specific. And be sure to celebrate your small wins to build momentum and keep your motivation high. Tracking your progress is another great way to see how far you've come. It can be easy to feel like you're not making much progress, especially when learning a language can seem like such a huge task. However, by reviewing how much you've learned over time, you'll be able to see that you are, in fact, making real progress. Keep a journal or use an app to track your vocabulary, grammar lessons, and speaking achievements. Look back at your earlier entries to see how much you've improved. It's also essential to find your why. Understanding why you want to learn English is absolutely essential for staying motivated. Are you learning English for better career opportunities? Are you learning it to travel the world? Or are you learning it to communicate with family and friends? Having a clear and powerful reason will give you the determination to continue, even when the process gets tough. I encourage you to write down your reasons for learning English and refer back to them whenever you feel discouraged. This will remind you of your purpose and will help to reignite your motivation. As I mentioned, it is so important to celebrate your small wins. It's easy to get caught up in the big picture and overlook the small victories you achieve along the way. Every time you learn a new word, understand a conversation, or complete a lesson, take a moment to pause and celebrate your progress. These small wins add up over time and will keep you motivated to keep going. You can reward yourself when you reach a milestone, perhaps by treating yourself to something special or enjoying a fun activity. This kind of positive reinforcement will help you to stay motivated. Learning English doesn't have to be monotonous. If you find yourself getting bored with the same old study routine, mix things up by trying new learning methods. Watch English TV shows or movies, listen to new podcasts, read books in a different genre, or join a language exchange group. Variety keeps things interesting and ensures that you stay engaged. Experiment with different methods until you find what works best for you. Keep your practice fresh and exciting to maintain your motivation. The people you interact with can have a significant impact on your motivation. It's important to surround yourself with positive influences, whether it's fellow language learners, supportive friends, or encouraging family members. Sharing your goals and your progress with others can help you to stay accountable and motivated. You could join online language learning communities or find a language partner to practice speaking with. These communities can offer support, encouragement, and the opportunity to connect with other people who are on the exact same journey as you. You must learn to embrace mistakes and learn from them. Mistakes are an inevitable and valuable part of learning a new language. Instead of getting frustrated when you make errors, try to embrace them as opportunities for growth. Every single mistake you make is a chance to improve, and having a positive mindset helps you to view these moments as valuable learning experiences rather than as failures. When you make a mistake, don't be too hard on yourself. Simply reflect on it, understand what went wrong, and use that knowledge to do better next time. Even the most motivated learners experience moments of frustration. It's completely normal to feel stuck or discouraged at times, but it's important not to let these feelings stop you. When you face difficulties, take a step back, take a deep breath, and remind yourself that learning is a journey, not a race. Everyone experiences setbacks, but they do not define your ability to succeed. If you're feeling particularly frustrated, take a short break, change your study routine, or try something completely different to refresh your mindset. And finally, please stay patient with yourself. Language learning takes time. You will not become fluent overnight, and that's perfectly okay. The key is to remain patient with yourself. Keep in mind that each day you practice, you're getting one step closer to your goal. Trust the process and enjoy the small victories along the way. Remember that consistency over time is what leads to success. Be kind to yourself and focus on your long-term progress. Learning English truly doesn't have to be a daunting or difficult task. By approaching it with the right mindset, with consistent practice, and with the right techniques, you can make the entire process much more enjoyable and much more effective. Throughout this podcast, we've explored several key strategies to help you learn English effortlessly. From understanding the concept of effortless learning to immersing yourself in the language and focusing on consistent daily practice, each of these steps contributes to your overall success. By integrating English into your daily life, whether it's through listening, speaking, or learning vocabulary in context, you create a rich environment where learning feels natural rather than forced. It's also so important to remember that language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. Patience and consistency are absolutely crucial in achieving fluency. Focus on your progress, not on perfection, and remember to celebrate every small achievement you make along the way. Most importantly, stay positive and motivated. It's easy to feel discouraged at times, but by maintaining a positive attitude and setting achievable goals, you will keep moving forward and you will overcome any obstacles that come your way. Remember that everyone's learning journey is unique, and it's perfectly okay to make mistakes. What truly matters is that you keep going. So whether you're just starting your English learning journey or you've been practicing for a while, I encourage you to keep applying these strategies. Stay consistent, and above all, enjoy the process. English isn't just a language, it's a tool that opens doors to new opportunities, new friendships, new cultures, and new ways of thinking about the world. Keep your goals in mind, stay committed, and trust in yourself. You are already on the right path to learning English effortlessly. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of English in Advance. I truly hope that the tips and strategies we shared here today will help you feel more confident and motivated on your English learning journey. Keep practicing, stay positive, and enjoy the ride. You've got this. If you found this helpful and want more tips on learning English effortlessly, please be sure to follow or subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss our next episode. And if you can, please turn on your notifications. It's a small click for you, but it really helps us bring more content like this to wonderful learners like you. Until next time, happy learning.